Hello, and welcome to another tutorial video. July is upon us already, and today I thought I'd share with you a step-by-step procedure I use for building and installing an Arch Linux base image for an Intel laptop complete with Gnome, BTRFS, PipeWire, zram, and TimeShift AutoSnap technologies using the latest Arch ISO package. We have a lot to cover, so let's get started. Remember, you can pause this video at any time. Here, I've booted a UEFI KVM with the latest Arch ISO install media and secure shelled into it. So let's change the root password if you want to secure shell into it using the password. And I've done that already. If you need, IWCTL is available for connecting to Wi-Fi using Station, WLAN 0 for your Connect card, and SSID in quotes. It'll ask you for your Wi-Fi password. But we're already connected to the internet, so we don't need that here. So IPA shows that we have a valid IP address assigned, so networking seems functional. So let's proceed with time date CTL set NTP true. And let's set up the reflector. Country will be US. Age 6 hours. Protocol will be HTTPS. We'll do the latest 5, and we'll sort by the rate. And we'll save it to the usual etc pacman.d mirror list. And hit enter. And that's done. So let us synchronize the databases and proceed by checking our storage situation. We've got VDA there, so let's gdisk it and partition it. Gdisk dev VDA. Let's do the EFI partition first. Let's make it 300 megabytes. EF00 is the code. Let's call it EFI. Next, let's do the swap partition. That's physical RAM plus 1 gig. So I'll put 17 here for my setup. 8200 is the code for swap. Let's call that partition swap. And finally, the third partition will be our root partition. That'll be a Linux file system 8300. And we'll call it Arch root. Let's print it and the table and see what we have. That looks good. So let's write it. Yes. And there we go. We've got our disk partitioned. So next, let's make the VFAT file system for EFI on VDA1 and make VDA2 the swap partition. Let's turn on swap for VDA2, or using VDA2 rather. And let's make the BTRFS partition on Arch root, which is dev VDA3. That looks good. So let us mount dev VDA3 on /mount. CD into it. And let us create the root subvolume at, and make the home subvolume as well as the var subvolume and the data subvolume. Let's see back out of it. Let's unmount it and let us create the options for mount for our SSD drive. And these work very well, I found. No A time. Compress will be Z standard. Space underscore cache. The discards will be asynchronous. And this subvol will be the root subvol, or at. This will be on the VDA3 partition. And we'll mount it on mount and hit enter. So now that's done. We'll make some top-level directories here for our subvolumes. Be under mount, boot EFI, home, var, and data. So now we can set up the other subvolumes. Hit up arrow twice, and let's do home. So at home, and mount home. Same thing for var. Put that under mount var. And we'll do the same for data. At data, /mount data, and hit enter. Good. We also need to mount the EFI partition, which is in VDA1. So that'll be on mount boot EFI that we just created. And that looks good. Next, let us clear the terminal and let's packstrap some packages. We'll packstrap into mount, base, base devel, Linux, LTS, Linux firmware, the Intel, use AMD microcode if you have AMD, the Intel microcode, sysfs utils, BTRFS progs, crypt setup, device mapper, DHCP client daemon, dialog, E2FS progs, grml, zshell config, grub will need, gpt fdisk, less, lvm2, making it copy IO, nano, neofetch, netctl, nvme CLI rather, OS prober, vim, zshell, and that'll be our first packstrap. There may be duplicates coming up. Don't worry about those. We want to make sure we are complete. Okay. Okay. Those are installed. Clear the terminal and let us generate the file system table based on our current configuration using the UUID configurations. So we'll put that in mount etc fs tab. Let's chroot into mount and let us nano etc fs tab. What I like to do here is go to the swap partition and add priority 10 because zram we have priority 100 and the default is negative priority, so that's confusing, so I'll just put 10 in here. So that's done. Let's set up the time zone. ln-sf user share zone info America Los Angeles, that's my time zone, to etc local time. That's done. Let us synchronize the hardware clock to the system time. Hardware clock sys to HC. Let's clear the terminal and let's stream edit -i in single quotes. Let's substitute the commented out underscore us.utf-8 line with the uncommented en underscore us.utf-8. So we're just uncommenting that line in the /etc /locale.gen file. And then once that's done, that line uncommented, we'll also want to run locale-gen and hit enter. And it's generating the locales, and it's done. So let's set lang equals en underscore us.utf-8 via the echo command and send that to etc locale.conf and hit enter. Next, let's echo Gnome as our host name and put that in /etc/hostname. And next, let's echo localhost would be 127.0.0.1 localhost, and we'll put that in /etc/hosts. Hit enter. Next line would be echo in quotes the IPv6 version for localhost ::1 localhost, and we'll put that in etc hosts. Finally, we'll echo the line 127.0.1.1. That'll be gnomic.localdomain space gnomic. That will be the final line in etc hosts. Hit enter. So we've taken care of hosts file. Let's give ourselves a root password and type it again. Let's clear the terminal and let us add some more packages. pacman-s grub UEFI boot mgr network manager applet network manager OpenVPN. Find that very useful for your VPNs. WPA underscore supplicant for Wi-Fi. mtools. Dialog. DOSFS tools. Reflector. Linux LTS headers for compiling one's own kernel modules. Avahi for network browsing, XDG user DIRs for user configurations, XDG utils, GVFS for virtual file systems, and also for Samba, NFS utils, iNet utils, DNS utils, blues utils, ALSA utils, PipeWire, here comes PipeWire, PipeWire ALSA. I also want PipeWire Pulse, PipeWire Jack, OpenSSH, rsync, very useful, htop, also very useful, ACPI, Flatpak. We want the Open Sound firmware, NSSMDNS, ACPI daemon, NTFS 3G, Git, TLP for laptop power management. Ooh, that's a lot of packages. Let me take a look here, see if this all makes sense. Again, don't mind some defaults here. And we'll just go ahead with the installation. Find defaults work perfectly fine. Also, there may be some duplicates. Don't worry if you spot some. I just want to make sure that, like I said before, we have a complete set of packages for our Gnome desktop environment. Okay, it's done. Let's clear the screen and install Grub. --target equals x86 _ 64 -EFI. The EFI directory in this case will be in boot, EFI, and the bootloader will be, bootloader ID rather, will be Arch Linux. So we'll identify Arch Linux install to the EFI firmware. So it's installing. And it's done. No error reported. Very good. Next, let's clear the terminal and let's check the UUID in FS tab for the swap partition because we'll need that to resume from. So we've got that. We'll copy it and keep it safe. And let's nano etc default grub. And hit enter. So the Linux default command line we can put in here where the Linux kernel can resume from with resume equals and then what we just copied. So we'll paste that in there. And now we can resume from sleep or hibernation. So next, let us make the Grub configuration. Let's write out to /boot /grub /grub.cfg. And that's done. Let's clear the terminal and let us systemctl enable ACPID. Let's also enable Avahi daemon. Also enable Bluetooth. Also enable, for the SSD, the file system trim timer. Also enable network manager, very important. And also enable the reflector timer service and SSH daemon. And of course, the power management TLP. That's done. Let's clear the terminal. And next up is let's add our user, Steven in my case. Let's create a home directory and use its own group. The shell will be /bin/z shell, and we'll add to the groups sys, log, network, floppy, scanner, power, RF kill for turning off and on your radios, users, video, storage, optical, LP for line printing, if we ever enable that, audio, wheel for the wheel group, very important for sudo, ADM, and of course my name is Steven, and we'll hit enter. And there the account is created. Let's create a password for Steven. Type in my password, type it again, and it's done. Clear the terminal, and let's set the editor to nano, and let's vi sudo, because we need to uncomment and enable the wheel group as being able to sudo. There it is. Let's uncomment this line. Now all wheel group members can sudo. Perfect. That's what we wanted. Next, let's nano etc make init copyio.conf, and under modules for you Intel graphics users, you may want to preload i915, but mostly you don't have to do that. Only do it if you really need to, or do an early load of that module. But what you'll need to do if you want to resume from hibernation or sleep is you want to add resume to hooks. So we just did that, and let's go ahead and make init copyio rather for Linux LTS kernel that we installed earlier. So there's the resume hook being built. And it's done. Clear the terminal, and let's go into the reflector configuration directory in etc xdg reflector. And let's make a backup copy of, I need coffee, of the original configuration. Let's create our own configuration, reflector.conf. And let's do the same thing we did at the beginning of this tutorial. So the country will be US. The age will be 6. The protocol will be, of course, HTTPS. We want the latest 5 repositories that were updated. We want to sort them by rate, and we'd like to save these repositories to etc pacman.d mirror list, the usual spot. Yeah, it looks good. Let's write that out. So that's done. So let's enable it. systemctl enable reflector.service. So reflector is taken care of. So let's make dir etc pacman.d hooks for the hooks directory. And because we want to automatically back up the boot directory using the script 50-boot backup.hook. So every time we update the kernel package, we get a backup. So the trigger section, we'd like to take care of upgrade operations, install operations, remove operations, and the type will be path. And the trigger target will be user lib modules asterisk and then VM Linux. This is straight from the Arch Wiki. Works very well, I found. For the action section, we'd like to depend on rsync, which we've installed earlier. We want the description, i.e. the message it prints out when it does the backup, to be saying backup or backing up /boot ellipsis. When do we want this to happen? Before the transaction takes place. So pre-transaction would be the when clause. And we'd like to execute user bin rsync. And we want to delete anything that's old. /boot. And we want to back it up to /boot -backup. And that's our boot backup.hook script. And that will execute every time we upgrade our kernel. Great. So let's exit out of the chroot environment. Let's unmount everything we can. Some are going to be busy. That's unavoidable. And let's reboot the system. Let's log in as Steven back into the system that we just installed, the base system. The IP address has changed since we're on DHCP, and so the unique identifier has changed. So we're up one, so 186. So secure shell into there as Steven. My password I just gave myself. And we're in Gnome. So let's take care of yay, git clone https://aur.archlinux.org/yay and hit enter. So we created the yay build directory. Let's cd into it. And let's make package -si package build. Let's build yay. Let's enter my password. And let's proceed with the installation. Okay, it's done. Let's cd back out of there, and let's remove this build directory since we no longer need it. So yay is now enabled and available. So let's type yay-s and let's install the zram daemon. I trust you, so I say no. So it's building. And it's done. So let's turn on that daemon. Sudo systemctl enable now, please. zramd.service and hit enter. So next, let's clear the terminal and check if it works. Swap on -s and we've got a summary here. The priority for VDA2 is 10, and the priority for zram is 100, the highest priority. So zram is being used whenever possible, and only when physical RAM is out does it use the swap partition. So that's exactly what we want. Next, let's sudo pacman -s xorg xorg-apps xorg-server xorg-drivers xorg-xkill xorg-xinit xterm and mesa. Looks good. Defaults are fine. Again, defaults. And let's proceed with the installation. Okay, that's done. So let's clear the terminal and let's sudo pacman and remove some troublesome packages for many of us. The video Intel driver can cause issues on our X desktop. Also, most of us don't have real Synaptics hardware, so we want to remove the Synaptics package. If you have Synaptics, keep that in there. Don't remove it. So those are gone. Next, let's sudo pacman-s the GNOME desktop environment, GDM, GNOME, GNOME Extra, GNOME Builder, why not? GNOME shell extensions, dconf editor, Firefox, Thunderbird, got web and email, transmission, -GTK for BitTorrent, great client, GNOME-tweaks, some themes, Arc GTK theme, Arc icon theme, Adapta GTK theme, Adwaita icon theme, Materia GTK theme, GNOME icon theme, Papyrus icon theme, GTK engine Murine, that's the theming engine, GNOME keyring, VLC video LAN player, Celluloid, very good player, some fonts, how about some Bitstream, Vera, Deja Vu, GNU free fonts, Noto fonts, the TrueType Roboto fonts, Ubuntu fonts, Ubuntu family rather, Cascadia, very nice coding font. Inconsolata, it's a very good console font. Believe that's what you're seeing here. LightVA utils for video acceleration, and the Intel Media driver for hardware video acceleration. Again, you may find some duplicates. Don't worry about those. I know this works. So I'm going to hit enter. So it all looks pretty good. Default is all. Yes. Default. Yes. We'll do the Noto fonts emoji and we'll proceed with the installation. And it's done. Okay, our GNOME desktop environment is installed, so let's enable the GDM display manager, sudo systemctl enable GDM. There we go. Next, let's test Flatpak installations by installing KDNLive, which is a very good video editor. That seems to be working great. It's grabbing all the packages from FlatHub and doing the install. And it's installed. Very nice. Clear the terminal and let's yay in some packages. TimeShift and TimeShift AutoSnap. And hit Enter. Yes, we want to build TimeShift. No diffs to show. I trust them. Let's proceed with installation. Again, in general, you want to check the source for AUR packages to make sure you trust every package you're about to install. These are standard packages, so it's fairly safe to trust them and just say none when you install. Again, to summarize, best practice is trust nothing, check everything, especially when it comes to the user repositories. Okay, and it's installed, or they are installed rather. Let's clear the terminal and let's yay in some other packages. How about the Microsoft Core web fonts and the entire PAMAC utility and firewall? Yep, let's go ahead. Default is fine for all of these. Default. Let's not remove make dependencies. No diffs to show. And because, as I said, we trust them. And let's install. And we're done. Okay, let's clear the screen. Let's reboot in Gnome. And we're in Gnome. So, let me type in my password. You can see Wayland is enabled. So let's log in. And we have GNOME 40. So first off, let's launch tweaks. Yes, extensions has moved. We know that. Let's change the appearance to something darker. Arc Dark. That looks pretty okay. Let's fix the Windows title bars by enabling maximize and minimize buttons. And that looks good. So let's launch TimeShift. Get that configured by typing our password. For sudo, BTRFS is automatically detected. And yes, it is on VDA3, which is our root file system. The snapshot levels defaults are perfectly fine for me. I will not include home in the snapshots, but I will enable queue groups as recommended, and we're done. So let's create our first snapshot, which takes less than a second. And that's it. So we can have something to roll back to as a baseline. All right, so let's test networking by launching Firefox browser. And there it is. Let's search for the ArchWiki, which is so useful in creating these tutorials. Let's click on the installation guide. And here you go. This is the installation guide that I've used heavily for creating these videos. It's a fantastic resource. I strongly recommend you use them as well. And looks like we're all done. This was a long video, and we covered many things, so thank you for sticking with it. Please leave comments, like, and subscribe if you find these tutorials useful. Until next time.